afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Miss P Presents with me, Miss P. Now, today we are going to be talking about one of life's greatest pleasures. And no, I am not talking about that first sip of champagne on a sunny Monday morning. Instead, I am talking, of course, about period dramas. I was first introduced to the genre when I was about 12 by my dear mama, who showed me the 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice, and since then I have never looked back. It was extremely difficult choosing 10 to appear on this list, so instead of calling them the top 10, I will instead refer to the selection as 10 of the best period dramas of all time. So what are we waiting for? Without further ado, grab yourselves a cup of tea and let's get talking. Before we get started, let's have a quick think about what makes a really good period drama. There is, of course, no definitive answer to this, but in my opinion, really good period dramas often have the following things in common. Firstly, they are true to their original text. Whilst it's important to remember that these dramas are adaptations, pieces of art in their own right, when you have a novel that has gone down in history as being brilliant and is still being read and loved 100 or 200 years later, you do well to stay relatively true to the plot and to the dialogue. Next up, costumes. What would a period drama be without it? Whilst it's always great to see costumes in a period drama that are historically accurate, I think above all, the costumes in a period drama need to capture the spirit of the age. The Favourite is a great example of a period film that doesn't attempt to replicate exactly the fashion of the period. Sandy Powell was the costume designer on that film, and she used modern textiles that were affordable, things like denim, and also used a monochrome palette, and the results are absolutely stunning. It's fun, eye-catching, and still conjures the feeling of court life in the early 18th century really, really well. Next, manners and etiquette. I think that lots of people are drawn to period dramas because of the manners, morals, and customs of the time. And honestly, what would our favourite period dramas be without those limitations? We love the brooding hero, who is prevented by the rules of society from speaking openly on the subject of his feelings.
There is something of great importance that I need to tell you about my education.
And though we may sometimes be frustrated by these moral codes, it makes our celebration all the more great when the plucky heroine flouts convention by acting in her own interests, speaking her own mind, and daring to risk the displeasure of others.
I will make no promise of the kind, and I must beg you not to importune me any further on the subject.
Not so hasty, if you please. I have another objection.
And finally, visuals. Period dramas are often presented as being visually stunning. Even those which attempt to show the world as it really was, with dirt, poo, missing teeth and all, undoubtedly have a certain charm. First up, we have the BBC 2006 production of Jane Eyre. This adaptation has the marvellous Ruth Wilson as Jane, who plays the title character with such depth. She is at once passionate and contained, capturing perfectly that expression that Mr. Rochester describes as having no judgment, no pity. He says that look could prise secrets from the blackest of souls. The production builds the feeling of unease really well. It is spooky and haunting. Something's not quite right. We don't know what or why, but this feeling of uncertainty and danger is prevalent throughout the drama. As a viewer, we only ever really trust Jane Eyre, which conjures up so many possibilities in our minds. We think, where is this going? What's going to go wrong? Could it all, perhaps, possibly, go right for her? Uncertainty is what makes this adaptation so exciting, as we wonder whether or not anyone is looking out for poor Jane Eyre. This echoes with Jane's own questions about herself. Does or can anyone love Jane Eyre? Or is she, as she believes, unlovable, little, plain, obscure and poor? The speech where Jane asserts herself is incredibly moving and powerful. Her life is quite the adventure, full of light, darkness, hope, fear and disappointment. Next up, we have the BBC 2008 production of Sense and Sensibility. The Ang Lee, Emma Thompson adaptation of this novel is also fantastic, but I honestly believe that mini-series have a much better chance of covering everything and telling the full story. And if pushed, I would say that the 2008 version is my favourite. Sense and Sensibility is a lot about public life, with our two protagonists, Eleanor and Marianne, forced into society and made to suffer the curiosity and the speculation of other people. I love how Hattie Morahan plays Eleanor with such restraint, but also with such palpable pain and anguish bubbling beneath the surface, as she is made to endure conversation with the insufferable Miss Lucy Steele, Mrs. Jennings, Mrs. John Dashwood, and Sir John. The pressure to perform and adhere to this strict moral code is shown to be overwhelming, stifling, and a little bit soul-destroying. In contrast with her sister, Marianne, played brilliantly by Charity Wakefield, refuses to adhere to this code and is punished in a different way. She has happiness in staying true to herself, but is ridiculed and ostracised by all polite society. I think it's a really powerful production in showing the mundanity of life for women of the Dashwoods' little means. They have absolutely no agency, and instead are forced to sit at home and wait for things to happen.
Happy Eleanor, you have no idea of what I suffer.
These insurmountable frustrations afford us even more relief when our heroines are rewarded with previously only dreamed of unimaginable happiness. One of my only gripes with this version is the casting of Dominic Cooper as John Willoughby of Allenham. For me, he just doesn't bring enough charm and charisma, which surely is essential, for what is John Willoughby without that? Next up, we have the BBC 2011 production, The Hour. Probably the best piece of television ever made. It's totally divine. The script by Abby Morgan is brilliant, containing numerous, interesting, nuanced characters that are magnificently brought to life by the stunning cast, which includes Romola Garai, Ben Whishaw, Dominic West, Una Chaplin and Anna Chancellor, to name but a few. Quite simply, it's a masterpiece. I don't know of many other, as I said, pieces of television, period dramas, that are so successful in creating such atmosphere. It's delicious, addictive, intoxicating TV that transports you to a world of social taboos, cigarette smoke, and dangerous conspiracies. Watch it now, thank me later. It's amazing. Next up, we have the film Love and Friendship, released in 2016. This brilliant adaptation is highly stylistic and dramatises Austen's epistolary novel Lady Susan to absolute perfection. Fast-paced when compared with her other works, Lady Susan is a hilarious comedy of manners that translates really well onto the screen.
It's her husband, Charles Vernon, who has Churchill.
Churchill. That's how you say it. All together like that? Cha-chum! Oh, well, that explains a lot.
At times, it also almost feels a little like a stage production, with a spotlight on characters to introduce them. They appear suddenly, deliver their lines, and make their exits. It's very clever, very original, and its IMDb rating should definitely be ignored. Lady Susan is expertly played by Kate Beckinsale, who is wonderfully funny.
The fees at Frederica's school are far too high to even think of paying. So, in a sense, it's an economy.
Her character is cunning, manipulative, and self-serving. And yet she is our protagonist, meaning that the humour in her motives, her schemes, and her speech are wildly entertaining, and results in her being someone who, as an audience member, we cannot help but root for. Next up, we have the BBC 2007 production of Cranford. The book by Elizabeth Gaskell, or Mrs. Gaskell, is quite unusual, but very modern in its observations and its dialogue. The focus on the little details of life, specifically the lives of the largely female community in Cranford, transports you to another world that is so absorbing and so fascinating. The world that Gaskell created in Cranford is one that we are not used to seeing, as it shows men as being on the peripheries. They are either not present, or they are not as quick, or as intelligent, or as in control as the women of Cranford. And as a drama, it's so compelling and offers a really fresh perspective on history, in a way.
I am planning an evening entertainment. I thought perhaps cutlets and cold brawn moulded to resemble a roast boar. Oh, he should put an orange in his mouth.
First and foremost, it's a story about community, drawn from 3 novellas, Mr. Harrison's Confessions, My Lady Ludlow, and Cranford. There is a gorgeous amount of detail in the costume and the set, but for me, the thing that really sets this adaptation apart from others is the dialogue, which is unlike anything you'll hear anywhere else.
Are the culprits still at large?
No, they've gone skulking back to the railway works whilst leaving a great pool of effluvia.
Spoken by a cast of legends, which includes Judi Dench, Imelda Staunton, Julia Mackenzie and Barbara Flynn, the script is laugh out loud funny. There is honestly so much to love, and I really don't think I could recommend it highly enough. That was 5 of my favourite period dramas of all time. Stay tuned for the next 5, which will be coming your way very soon. Joffrey, power up the DVD player. Which one? Sense and Sensibility or Pride and Prejudice? No, Joffrey, I mean which one first? Thank you so much for watching my channel. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so you can keep up to date with all things Miss P Presents. See you next time.